At that time, I think when he got out, I might have been just 27. I'm not sure. Someplace around, but I know it's very. And I was like, oh my God! It's like all of my life, this man was locked, seemingly, okay, to the natural eye. He was locked up, and his freedom stripped from him. That's what it would appear. But when you listen to his story, you'll understand that he was free even in jail.
Yes.
Wow.
The jail could not hold him. It did a physical hold, but mentally, he was free.
Yes.
His mind was free.
Yes.
He was able to write and be able to maintain his right in his right mind throughout all things. And so it began to show me that freedom is not a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. You've got to get free here first, and then you'll be free externally. All right, principle number, where are we?
Continue.
Continue. Go ahead and continue, yes.
Become it. The will of God is the ceaseless longing of the Spirit within you.
Wow.
The will of God is the ceaseless longing of the Spirit within you to completely fulfill in the outer the potential within you. The will of God is in you, is the pent-up energy of your own divinity that is seeking releasement and fulfillment in your manifested life. It is God seeking to express himself as you, as radiant health, as eternal youth, as an all-sufficiency of supply, as freedom from limitation of any kind.
Can I tell you this?
Ooh,
Stop saying if it's God's will.
my God.
Amen.
Because now we know right here,
It's God's will.
the will of God is ceaseless. It's the ceaseless longing of the Spirit within you. To do what? It's the ceaseless willingness, or the will of God is ceaseless longing of the Spirit to completely fulfill the potential of God in you. The very fact that you would say if it's God's will means that you have the potential to activate or bring forth that thing that you're saying is God's will for. You couldn't say it otherwise. And what is happening is the Spirit of God trying to move through you to manifest that thing that you're saying if it's God's will for. Yes, it's God's will. He's longing to produce that potential that's on the inside of you so it can come forth into manifestation. Yes, it is God's will that you go back to school to get your education. Yes, it is God's will that you go ahead and have the fine car that you want. Yes, it is God's will that you have the fur coat. Why? It's the potential, the energy on the inside trying to manifest itself through the outside of you.
Wow.
So it is God's will. Stop saying if it's God's will. It is His will. Can I tell you that? If it's in line with His word, it's His will. Now, no. Don't take this wrong. You can't go around talking about if it's God's will, now I'm going to have your husband, stuff like that. You know, that's crazy stuff. I'm not talking about that kind of crazy stuff. You know, coveting somebody else's anything. It doesn't matter what it is. That's craziness. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those things that you're believing God for and that you've already purposed that you are. Those are the things I'm talking about. Yes, that's God's will for you. Go ahead. You can have it. Free your mind. All right. Principle number 8. Yes.
Line up. You are free to align yourself with the good that you desire.
Come on. Let's type that in the chat room. You are free to align yourself with the good that you desire. You are free to align yourself with the good you desire. You are free to do that. No one is stopping you from aligning yourself with the good that you desire. There's no reason that you should be in desire, first of all, because in desire is to be in sin. Let's start there. Okay? So, to be out of sin, align yourself with the good that you desire. And when you do that, you'll find good things beginning to come together to bring forth your manifestation. It says we are the spiritual image and likeness of God, and are of like nature with God. What's the nature of God? Is spirit. You and I are spirit. We're spiritual beings having this human or earthly experience. That we are made in the essence of the essence of God and are individualized centers of the consciousness of God. Each one of us is an individualized center of the consciousness of God. I love that. God is not trying to, have everything for himself. No, he's put himself in each one of us and each one of you out there. You are an individualized center of the consciousness of God. You begin to manifest and demonstrate God right where you are. Continue reading, Prophet Fitzroy.
Wow. The Bible, then, having stated our divine pedigree and having carefully pointed out what happens to us through our misuse of the law of freedom, commonly called the fall of humankind, devotes its conclusion to man's redemption. The old prophets intuitively perceived this. The New Testament demonstrates it. For in the person of Jesus, there arose a man who became so conscious of his union with good that all evil disappeared from his imagination.
My. Can I tell you this?
Shonda.
Jesus. You have that same ability, Jesus. Okay, I'm not sinning here. I know what I'm talking about. You have that same ability to do what Ernest Holmes said here, to align yourself with the good, to be in conscious union with the good, to the point where all evil has disappeared from you.
Ooh.
Can I tell you, I'm on my way, because I don't see evil now. Things are just not evil. I don't even call things evil.
Amen.
It doesn't exist. There is no evil.
Jesus.
The only evil there is the evil I create. I choose not to create evil.
Right.
I choose to only see the good. Whatever situation is, I choose only to see the good in it.
Teacher.
You can't tell me about a devil doing this. There is no devil. The devil is only the ignorance of God in your imagination.
Amen.
Just make it plain.
So you have the ability to say what is or what is not in your life by what it is that you think. You have the ability to disperse all evil from you. Prophetess Leslie.
Where to start, right? I was thinking about the previous slide, or the previous statement. We said, when we were talking about the will of God is the ceaseless longing of the Spirit in you to completely fulfill your outer potential, within you. And I was thinking, before we got to this discussion of evil, I was thinking about what we call criminals, what we call people who transgress the law.
Yes.
And I realized really what's happening is a transgression of the law of freedom. Because there isn't any, I believe, this is my personal opinion, I believe there's not a person that brought to the planet that doesn't want to fulfill his or her potential. I just feel that. I feel that, because I see that just in babies. They want to sit up, then they want to walk, then they want to run, then they want to talk, then they don't want to be left out. They want to ride the bike as fast as their older brother and sister. Everybody wants to express that. They don't know what to call it, but we know there's the Spirit of God that's in them. Now, not everybody chooses the right paths to express that. Sometimes people are choosing paths that are going to cause themselves damage or cause other people's damage or, whatever. But in and of itself, they're not evil. And I think it's important for us to realize they're really, that's why Christ could say that the quote-unquote devil has nothing in me. Yes. He could see the God in all men because he saw the God, he was all God. He was a man that was all God, so he could see the God in all men. Yes. And also the other thought I had was this line on Principle 8, you are free to align yourself with the good that you desire. And Prophet Scott, you pointed out that desire is sin. And this is a thought, just for something for consideration, that we are constantly saving ourselves from sin. We're brought here to be saved from sin. And desire means of the Father. And yet it's sin because if we have desire something, that means there's a separation in our own consciousness between us and that thing. And yet God has said, I brought you here that you might have life and have it abundantly, that you might be whole, that you might be fulfilled. So it's like a key purpose of life, perhaps the purpose of life, is to save Jesus, the word Jesus means God saves. That's what it means, God saves. And so it's like we Jesus, we are constantly saving ourselves. God put the desire in us, and then we're saving ourselves from it. It's like we're taking ourselves from a situation where it seems like we don't have what we quote-unquote want to a consciousness that we are that thing that we want, and we're saving ourselves from ourselves.
Amen. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Prophetess Leslie. And even in the chat room, I love that Prophetess Chiffon Joseph says, evil is the absence of the recognition of God in any situation or circumstance. Beautiful. So you got to know that there's not, and she could only say that if she had come to that awareness. And we can only say we're saying up here because we've come to the awareness. You've got to realize that there's not a spot where God is not. You say, well, you know what, that situation, Hurricane Katrina, that couldn't have been God. Yeah, that was all God. There's not a spot where, you know how they're still living down there now? Yes, can I tell you that's still God? There's not a spot where he's not. You've got to see God in every situation. Can you see what's happening here?